So if the question is, how should a Christian define success for a faith-based business? I think it starts with why you got started in the first place. Is it a calling, or are you doing it and then along the way you want to figure out a way to make this a sacrifice to God? So depends on how you approach the whole thing, but for me, the way I define success is to look at profit differently. So I'm going to kind of give you a qualitative answer, and then I'm not sure about the quantitative answer, but I was into our third grand opening. We had opened up Pasadena, we had opened up East Village, and we were in the process of opening up it's our fourth opening, and we were opening up a location down in Broadway. We had our soft opening, and it was a disaster. Things weren't ready the way they were supposed to be. Our employees weren't properly trained because we rushed into the opening and we didn't have enough time for them. There was an issue with the build out, so things didn't get finished building out. So the patio wasn't finished, the back room wasn't finished. And so there was a lot of challenges. And when we got together to pray over the space like we usually do, there was this moment of, did I push too hard? And then did I get ahead of God, right? So there was a sense of failure at not having it done right. The other three had gone much smoother. We had been much more successful in our opening even. The way people received us, saw and heard about us. Our grand openings are usually really, really huge. I mean, our first grand opening, we had 800 some people come through the coffee shop in Pasadena. So we were expecting that, and we didn't get anything like that in our fourth opening. And it was a little bit of a letdown. Felt like a failure. And then I'm looking at the numbers, and because we expanded so fast and we were investing right back into our business so quickly, it wasn't, well, should I say, financially successful. And so how do you define success, right? So I'm sitting with my wife and kind of bemoaning the fact. So we were in our second location in East Village and having breakfast and just kind of going, did I mishear God? Did I get ahead of him? And if this is the way success is going to be at Copa, we're in trouble. We can't open up anymore. This is too draining. This is too hard on the team. This is too hard financially. And in the middle of that conversation, there's a couple sitting next to us that I knew, and he's a pastor. He leans over and says, "Hey, are you guys, you're Copa," to my wife, "You're one of the Copa's founders." And she's like, "Yes." And they started talking. And it was a couple who are missionaries from Ireland, and they were sent here to do church planting, which is, I think, kind of crazy. So they were trained in Ireland, sent to San Diego to do a church plant. And he says to us, when we got prayed over before we got sent, they said we would find a coffee shop in San Diego where we could start our ministry. This would be our sort of office. This would be the place where we bring people to talk and to share the gospel, and we'll grow it from here. And he says, this turned out to be that place. Copa Vida was their coffee shop that they felt God led them to. They ended up praying for 6 different people to be either healed or come to know the Lord in that space. And eventually, based on the group they were creating out of that space, they started a living room church, and now they're a 120-member church in San Diego. But he was telling us about their journey and how Copa provided that space. I did not design the coffee shop with that in mind. Guarantee you that wasn't in my head at all. But it was a moment of clarity for me where God was saying, measure profit differently than a normal business would. Because as a normal business, Copa is not a failure, but it's not a success either. We're eking by. But from a spiritual perspective, man, God has done so much through what we've done through the coffee shop. The number of pastors who do sermon prep at the Copa Vida in Pasadena is astounding. The number of people who share gospel. We have small group meetings at our coffee shops after our doors closed. There's all kinds of things that are happening on a spiritual level. So you have to measure profit differently. That, I think, is on a business side. On a personal side, too, there have been so many times that I've done this where it doesn't make any business sense, and the decisions I've made was more to follow God, not to follow what the P&L says I should do. But the result of that has been I got to experience God in a real way. And to me, that's worth a lot more than what money can provide in my life. Yeah. So, yeah, you have to measure success differently, and it can't be just by the numbers. It has to be by something else that's felt here. But there isn't a specific thing I can tell you. It's like a church can't be measured by the number of people that attend or the number of people that have come to know the Lord. You don't know what part of that harvesting process you're going to be. You may be the sower, you may be the grower, you may be the reaper, but somewhere along the line, if you're following God's path, your measurement of success is going to be very, very different.